is to create it. Take a move. Create a future. Join Shobit University.
As a young citizen of India, armed with technology, knowledge, and love for my nation, with a vision of transforming India into a developed nation, I am joining Shobit University. What about you?
Today, sir. Namaste. A very good morning from India. Respected speaker of the session, Mr. Jeong-hyun, all the deans, professors, students, and participants. I, Dr. Gunjan Agarwal, Dean School of Liberal Arts and Languages, Shobit University, Gango, Saharanpur, welcome you all at this virtual platform of co-learning webinar series. Today's topic is related to the all-round development of the personality of the student and teaching pedagogy. We have with us our worthy speaker, Sir Jeong-hyun from South Korea. He will be sharing the gist of his presentation, and I will read the content of his presentation in English provided by him on the slides. Now, first of all, I wish to introduce our worthy speaker. Mr. Jeong-hyun, a teacher at Industrial High School in South Jeolla province, has been teaching students at schools in rural areas for 29 years out of his 30-year teaching career. He has recorded the highest license acquisition rate in the country, which is directly related to the career path of specialized high school students, and has also been focusing on character education for students through talent sharing volunteer work. And also the Nobel Prize in Education, we met him, who was one of the top 10 finalists for the Global Teacher Prize in 2020. Jeong-hyun has been a technical teacher for 28 years, and 27 of which have been spent in farming and fishing villages. This is a challenging teaching environment, as the students at high school in these areas sometimes have poor basic education, a sense of defeat about their prospects, and a resultant lack of motivation. Jeong-hyun has dealt with the challenges in a number of productive ways. As the director of automobile department at Yeongnam Industrial High School, he has vastly expanded the range of vocational qualifications that students can take, teaching various courses on welding, automobile maintenance, construction, computer-aided design, and 3D scanning within the regular school curriculum. Since many students struggle with time-consuming side jobs to pay for their life expenses and certification fees, Jeong-hyun lends them money that is then paid back from the wage they receive in their future work placements. And this is the greatness. He has also created a variety of job clubs centered on gaining licenses for agricultural machine maintenance, forklift, and bulldozer and crane operation, as well as courses for PowerPoint, Excel, Photoshop. Jeong-hyun is exceptionally dedicated, providing after-school activities, courses every night until 10 p.m. and teaching a 14-hour day to give his students and the access they need. In 2012, 31 out of 33 students participated in the after-school activities, and on average, they achieved 17 vocational certificates per person since 2014. Over half of the 140 students at Yeongnam Industrial High School have also participated in volunteer work each year. And in the last decade, four of his students have also won talent awards from the Korean government. 50 students are selected each year from 1.8 million high school students nationwide. As a result, Jeong-hyun has been the recipient of the Young Medal, the Education Minister's Award, and the Health and the Welfare Minister's Award. If awarded the Global Teacher Prize, Jeong-hyun would use the funds to supplement the local children's center with computers, as well as supporting other after-school activities in other regional farming and fishing villages. And the his contribution is very vast, and this list is long. And this is the brief introduction of our worthy speaker. Now I would like to invite our speaker, sir. Please say something about the presentation which I am going to read. Please give us the gist of your presentation. Please, sir. Please start.
I say?
Yes, please, yes.
Let me introduce myself. I am teacher Jeong-hyun, South Korea High School. I haven't used English for 30 years, so it's hard to listen and talk. However, writing and reading is possible. I hope you understand my situation. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to read all the points you have given me. I'm sharing slides.
Please share my PowerPoint screen.
Yeah, sure. The screen is visible?
Okay.
पुष्पिंदर भैया स्क्रीन में शेयर कर रही हूँ दिख रही है स्लाइड्स
I start now? Okay. I will start. 저는 한국에서 고등학교 교사로 근무하고 있습니다. 저는 31년 교육 생활 중 30년을 농어촌 학교에서 근무했습니다. Okay, say English. Okay.
I read in English. I'm reading for our worthy speaker. This is the introduction, and this is something about our worthy speaker, Mr. Jeong-hyun. He says, I'm working as a high school teacher in Korea. I worked at a rural school. For 30 years out of 31 years of teaching, I will talk about the student education environment. Most of the students' middle school grades at the time of admission are between 80 and 100%. Most of the students who entered the automobile department were not interested in the department. Not only do the students of specialized high schools located in farming and fishing villages have poor basic education, but they are usually less willing to study. Have poor basic education, but they are usually less willing to study, have a sense of defeat, and have lost their motivation. Students tend to be absent and leave without notice because of the lack of a clear sense of purpose in student life. So their school life is very unstable and uninteresting. There are many students from socially vulnerable and disadvantaged families, such as from those basic livelihood recipients, lower income families, grandparents raising families, divorced families, households headed by a child, probationers, and their living conditions are extremely poor. In order to pay for part of the family's living expenses and school expenses, many students are working part-time jobs after school. Students who graduate from school without any skills often face poverty. Let's talk about education focus for 30 years. Because of the living environment of the students was difficult, they could not afford to attend private academies to acquire skills, so they had to solve the problem only through public education. I felt the importance of school since there are many vulnerable people in rural areas and students who depend on school. Students in farming and fishing villages pass the written test for certificates around 10% and pass the practical test about 50%. Since it is difficult to pass written exam due to lack of basic education, students needed a foundation that systematically supports their study. To solve the problem, First of all, I used after-school activities and club programs to support students who has poor basic education and no interest in studying. Students are able to study and acquire specific skills to their prepare for their future. Secondly, volunteer activities were carried out in connection with the schools and communities in order to develop their personality, in which students moved away from their self-centered mindset and lived together with each other. I will introduce my teaching method. So this is the teaching method of our one speaker. First, let's talk about computer teaching method. The school I work at is in the commercial department. At 5 p.m., the commerce department teachers leave work. The commercial department teaches commercial students after school. I can't ask the commerce teachers to teach the automobile students computer after school. Only the automotive department can solve it on its own. I'm computer illiterate. I'm not good at computers. Every time I write a document, I ask young teachers. Although I don't know computers, I will explain how my students got the most computer certificates in South Korea. The high school I work in is a school where students learn skills. Learning the skills comes first. The regular curriculum is almost all about learning skills. Of course, there are computer subjects, but there's little time to learn. In today's society, we have to be good with computers. So I taught the students essential Word, Excel, and PowerPoint after school. I can't explain to students how to write computer documents because I don't know computers. So after school, I get the students into a computer lab. I ask the students what they were good at. Some students make diagrams well, and some other students they are good at Word. Some students are good at PowerPoint. I have completed how to do Word in PowerPoint, Excel by collecting the parts that students are good at. Each student clearly has something they are good at. Students who are good at computers explain to students who do not know well. In this way, the lead student completes Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. Then the leading student guiding the other student in pyramid form. I'm a teacher, but I cannot explain it to students because I don't know well. The students explain the students. As a teacher, I only needed to manage the students well. So this was something about management skills. I will talk about how to teach Photoshop. Photoshop led in an unusual way. There were no students who knew Photoshop. Students must learn and have to practice to get a Photoshop certificate. The school where I work has a commercial department. In the commercial department, commercial students learn Photoshop. There was a female student who obtained a Photoshop certificate. The girl was friends with a boy from the automobile department. So I asked the female student to teach Photoshop to the male student of the automobile department. Because she is a student, she doesn't know how to teach students. I have the way to teach students next to the female student. Boys learn how to use Photoshop. In this way, 40 automobile students obtained Photoshop certificates over a 3-year period. If there was no way, I didn't give up and found a way myself. So this is an example of where there is a will, there is a way. By educating students in this way, they obtained the highest number of computer certificates among all high school in South Korea. Also, it is important for students to develop the ability to do things on their own in school education. In other words, schools teach students how to fish. It is not a place to fish and give it to the students. You shouldn't educate students while fishing. Teachers should discover and develop students' abilities. The same goes for companies. It is necessary to create an environment in which employees can maximize their abilities. This is because the development of company employees is directly linked to the development of the company. It is impossible for a teacher to know everything and educate students. If a teacher does not know, he or she should find a way and teach students. If there's no way, they have to find a way If I didn't find a way because I didn't know how to use a computer, maybe my students would have graduated without knowing how to use it. This is really a very positive approach, and I appreciate. I tried and thought more than others to find a way myself, and I overcame difficulties. I found that way and continued to pursue it without giving up. Koi is low. The life of a fish named koi. Among the ornamental fish is very unique. The fish grows only 5 to 8 centimeters when kept in a small fish tank. If placed in a large aquarium or pond, it will grow up to 15 to 45 centimeters. And if released into river water, it will grow to 90 to 140 centimeters. It is the same fish, but it's raised in a fish ball. It grows to the size of a pyramid. It is a mysterious fish that turns into a large fish if placed in river water. This is what people call Poi's law. And same is the case with all human beings, which circumstances we have been brought up. This is very important. And again, if we get opportunities and if we get positive environment, we can do anything. So Poi's law states that circumstances and the size of your thoughts can make a huge difference in outcomes. And if we think of our stage as a river rather than a fish ball and increase the size of our dreams, our lives will change. Do you grow your students in a small fish tanks as seen in Poe's law? Or do you grow it in an aquarium? Do you make them grow in rivers? How are you teaching for your disciples? How are you raising the dreams of students, preparing for the future? Let me talk about how I taught cars and construction machines. To solve the shortage of practical equipment and the difficulty of educating many students at the same time, I came up with 2 ways as follows. Firstly, after the regular classes, the school classroom and practice room were open until 10 p.m. every night so that students who were in need of living would come to school to practice and study skills after their part-time jobs were over. Secondly, I solved the shortage of equipment and the concentration of student education by rotating the club program that students wanted to learn in order. As many students participated in club program and they want various club activities according to their aptitude. It is impossible to teach every student at the same time. Thus, I only taught students how to study and let them study theory and practice on their own. I have developed their ability to learn on their own by conducting various project classes. Also, through various club programs, students were able to find their favorite field and choose a career path they want. I selected excellent and good learning students as the leading students and directed them first. When the leading students finished their studies, they passed on their skills and learning to other students in the form of a pyramid and divided them into small groups by technology and certificate. I created a job club, a gifted functional club, and a variety of licensed clubs such as automobile maintenance, agricultural machine maintenance, forklift, excavator, roller, bulldozer, crane, motor grader, document practitioner, MS Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Access, Photoshop, MOS, ICDL, 3D scanner, CAD. I managed after-school activities every night until 10 p.m., teaching 14 hours a day at school, even on Saturdays, summer, and winter vacations, to help students master their skills. As a result, students were encouraged to get many certificates. Students received from 10 to 17 certificates per person and have a wider career choices to have a job and be suitable for their aptitude. If we talk about public offering, until 10 years ago, students work part-time to learn certificates and skills. Because it takes a lot of money to get a license, students themselves work part-time to get the certificate because they couldn't apply for all the skills they learned at home. It was unfortunate that such a thing was brought money from an outside institution through a public offering 10 years ago. So I wrote a letter directly to the Scholarship Foundation and sent a letter to tell you about the school situation and to support the students. Since 2010, the amount of money received as a public offering has been $630,000. A huge money. I received a huge amount of money as a public offering project. The money that was selected for the contest was spent on after-school activities for the students. This is why I became a famous teacher in Korea. So the money he got, $630,000. That was a huge amount. And then let's talk about educational performance. Teacher Yun has given 5 national high school certificates and 6 national high school certificates. He coached the 4 winners of the South Korean Award. The Korean Talent Award is awarded to 50 talented students in each field out of 1.8 million high school students nationwide. The largest number of technical training sessions were conducted in South Korea. Let's talk about volunteer work. In terms of students' personality education, volunteer work clubs are recognized and utilized. I led students to volunteer with the talent that they gained through after-school programs, guided them through social and school education, and providing them with an opportunity to experience for themselves the fact that the talents are useful. In Korea, volunteer work is becoming very popular as it is included in the regular curriculum on an educational level. Since 2005, students have volunteered for 370 children at local children's centers and 1,000 elderly people at nursing homes. Students also performed welding volunteer work and volunteer work in farming and fishing villages for broken facilities using the welding technology developed at school. After 5 p.m., after the class, volunteer work cannot be enforced at school, and the students volunteered themselves. Talent Sharing Club members and the clubs won 14 ministerial awards, 65 provincial governors and educational superintendents awards. In particular, he was the only middle and high school student to receive the award at the Korea Sharing National Awards. It is the best club among the middle and the high schools in South Korea and has won the most outreach awards. And I will introduce the methods. Now, these are the methods given by our speaker. And I have taught other than after-school activities and volunteer work. Lifelong education in the community. From 2011 to 2016, 57 external high school students were commissioned to train, and 240 people, including farmers, fishermen, ordinary people, and parents, were brought to the school to practice cars and construction machinery to obtain technical acquisition and certification. Construction machinery practice video. A video showing the practice of construction machinery was filmed and posted on the blog so that students from other regions and the general public could easily practice. Teacher introduced various methods of obtaining certificates and is visiting the blog about 268,000 views. Guaranteed learning rights by car on weekends. During after-school activities on Saturday, summer, winter vacation from 2009 to 2021, I took 21 students living in some places, I would not like to pronounce, maybe the pronunciation would be wrong, to a school located in Jeong-hyun and Boson, 65 to 80 kilometers, 130 to 160 kilometers round trip from the name of a place is there, to provide training on construction machinery and to help them obtain skills and certificate. Role model. I invited successful students to the school to introduce their experiences, presenting them with the role model and acted as mentors on behalf of their parents. Subscribe to the economic newspaper. Teachers have a great influence on the career path of students. Most of the teachers have not read economic newspapers. Most teachers do not know what is going on in the world and only teach their subjects to students. Since 1985, I have subscribed to economic newspapers to explain my perspective on the economy and help students to find jobs by introducing industry and the world of work. I frequently took care of this organized mind by communicating with students on various subjects such as career and personal matters. Self-development. The knowledge the teachers learn in college is the knowledge of the old times. The pace of change in society is fast. To keep up with this pace of change, there must be a constant self-development efforts. During my 31-year teaching career, I developed myself with an average of 2,452 hours and an average of 81 hours per year. Attracting the test site. If I don't host a test site, many students have to go to the city to take the test. Therefore, from 2013, computer testing sites and construction machinery testing sites were attracted to schools 30 times to reduce the students' economic costs. Special education student guidance. Since 2008, I have taught 4 students for special education, one-on-one classes using after-school activities, weekends and vacations. They took more time and were more difficult to teach them ordinary students than ordinary students. But they worked hard to guide them to acquire skills and certificates to grow into a respectable member of society. Creative thinking. Rollers and motors gradient construction machines are expensive to rent equipment. Therefore, in 2012, a method of practicing substitute with an excavator was developed to reduce equipment rent and reduce economic costs. I applied the practice method creatively. There were students who couldn't take the certification exam because they had no money due to the difficult family environment. Since many students were paying for their living and certification fee through part-time jobs, I used my own money to lend to students and the lack of fees and expenses. The money I lent was to be paid back by the paycheck the students received in the 3rd grade placement so that they would not have trouble to get a certificate because of the cost burden. A teacher's notebook has been filled with 17 years of it for students' examination fees, even more money than my salary. I will talk about how to communicate with students. It's very hard to get people's hearts. In order to get closer to students, teachers must show sincere behavior. I have counseling by spreading job information and newspaper articles that help students. Since the popularization of the internet, I have been posting newspaper articles on my blog to consult students. I showed students employment notices which is suitable for their aptitude and taught them how to plan and prepare for a certificate so that they set their goals accurately. If students set goals, they work hard to achieve them and do not wander. Using social media, I understood students' interests and used them for counseling. During the weekdays, weekends, and vacation, I called the students frequently to check their difficulties and teach them questions they did not know. Also, I checked the study time and contents by text message, and I presented the students' career path together. I checked the amount of study by text message. Even the students who had to go home because the bus stopped early during the week. On weekends, I talked with students by text message. Students in need can call me at any time. I call the students frequently on weekends. I listen to the difficult situations of the students and give them directions for study. I talk with the students whenever they had time. Let me talk about how to encourage students. People have good points and bad points. They have one specific area they are better than others. I only praise a student for their strength. Students become more confident when they have praise, when they are appreciated. Besides the strength, I usually say compliments to students. If you praise a student, they really think that they are good at it. And I constantly praise the student for their good points, and I saw their change like a miracle. Now I'm going to talk about how to run the organization and leadership. Companies also use various methods to run their organizations. I also use a variety of organization for students, just like companies do. For example, the line organization instructed above, the staff organization using staff, and the project organization that temporarily operates the organization according to project issues were used. And different management organization depending on the situation, such as student level, difficulty in obtaining a certificate, and using students with leadership. I use the two types of leading style. One is this charismatic leadership, and the other is leading leadership. Let me talk about the driving force behind the achievement. I have a strong spirit of challenge, and I have adapted well to change without giving up. Perhaps this is the most important factor. Good choice and concentration are the second factor. The key point was to put student in the right position and concentrate on the resources. It's always dark when I meet new students at the beginning of the semester every year, and it is because there are many difficulties that must be faced in 3 years. However, I always set a big goal for the 3 years from admission to graduation. If you don't set a big goal, students become lazy, and I become lazy too. As you can see in my case, the whole situation was impossible. I didn't know didn't even know computers and taught students. Everything has a way. People just don't try and think about finding a way. If you run into a difficulty while challenging, you can go back. There are always more than two branches of a tree. You can do it in one of the two ways. There are always curiosity and regrets about the path, and that I have taken. You may reach your goal, but sometimes you don't. I didn't reach my goal because I got close to it. If I hadn't put in the effort, nothing would have been achieved. The plan is only a plan, and the beginning is only beginning, and you can't achieve anything if you don't plan and work hard. I couldn't satisfy the needs of all my students during my teaching experience, which is a shame. But I would like to summarize my 30-year education experience into 3 points: education experience and education plus experience equal to success. First, I worked at a school in a rural area where the working environment is pretty difficult. Not only farming and fishing areas were of the cities, but I had to live away from my family for a long time. Second, I educated students who needed more help, as most of my students were underprivileged, coming from low-income families raised by their parents and divorced families. Their lives were too tough to focus on learning. Third, the students I taught were not akin to studying. Of course, some students were good at it, but there are many students who lack the will to study. I have been teaching for 30 years and have done things that others find difficult to do. I taught technical skills to my students who needed more support and taught them the proper skills to grow into democratic citizens. I'll talk about the development process of South Korea. It is about the late 1960s when I was in elementary school. Many people were too poor to eat lunch. The United States supported flour, and the school made bread with flour and gave it to the students. During lunchtime, many students went to the water front. Being hungry, the students comforted themselves with water. Very pathetic. I remember the first time of eating bananas when I was in middle school in the late 1970s. When I was in elementary and middle school, Korea was not a country that lived well. There's nothing but human resources in Korea. We studied harder and worked harder, while others slept. Now, in my case, I'm living in a prosperous life, owning 4 TVs, including 75 inches, and 2 cars and 2 refrigerators. There was no house, no factory, or anything else because the war between North and South Korea broke out in 1950. Imagine what Korea would have done if it had changed from nothing to the current development of Korea. For 70 years before Korea became what it is today, Korea has been running forward. Even now, there are many places in Korean schools that study until 10 p.m. The development of Korea did not happen overnight. Next to where I work, that is a place called Pohang Steel. Iron and coal are imported from foreign countries to produce iron. With a single factory, it is the largest one in the world, the world's most productive, and there are many, not many people working because of automation. Among the resources for producing iron, Korea only has human resource. The development of Korea was worked only by human power. Now, even now, most people in Korea are very sincere, hardworking, and concentrating hard on their work. This was the driving force behind the development of the country. Thank you very much. This is something about the presentation. I hope I have done justice with the presentation. Maybe I have not pronounced the things in Korea properly, so I just
Okay.
apologize.
Thank you for listening part of my lecture. Thank you.
Now it's time to say thanks. So first of all, I would thank Almighty who has given us everything, and thank you very much. Mr. Jeong-hyun, you have given us your valuable time, and really it is very appreciable. This is a great work. That's why you have been a recipient of so many awards. Your government has appreciated your efforts. You have done so many things for your country and your students. Really, one cannot imagine. Here, the teachers say, I have a specialization in one subject. But you have just thought out of the box. So you have done something miraculous. So you have found ways where nobody can find a way. So really very, very appreciable, inspiring. That's why, I requested you that I just wish all the people here in India must know which type of teacher should be, there in a country so that a country may be developed. So I really wish that in my country all the teachers would think like they must have thinking as you have. I'm very, very thankful from the bottom of my heart. I'm very thankful to you, sir. You have given us your valuable time. Thank you very much. And now I would like to thank our authority persons who have given us all the support to work in a free environment. And next, technical team and participants, thank you very much. And with this prayer, I would like to conclude the session. Actually, this prayer we generally do this prayer. Maybe in Korean, a person from Korea cannot understand the meaning, but this prayer is the welfare of all. Sarve bhavantu sukhiye, sarve santu nirame, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashyantu bhagavate. So this is the way, this is the prayer from India for the welfare of all the nations, all the people in the world. Thank you so much, sir. This was really a wonderful session with you because we have learned so many things from you. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you for talking nice to me.
My pleasure, sir. If you allow, then I would like to read the statement given by our director, sir. He has written, Mr. Jeong-hyun, it's very good presentation of yours. Please tell what is about something on higher education scope in Korea. Sir, I will just convey your message to sir, and then later he will answer. So thank you so much. Now we would conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you.